You guys see it okay?
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So, want to welcome everybody tonight and welcome you to, we're going to do a, I'm Natalie Fritz. I'm the Curator of Library and Archives, and we've got Virginia Weygandt, our Director of Collections, and Kasey Eichensehr, our Senior Curator, that are going to jump in tonight to add their stories, because tonight we're telling this behind the scenes story of the Heritage Center Museum. And welcome people to ask questions as we go. And I welcome Virginia and Kasey to jump in whenever they need to. But we are, so you guys are gonna see these two on the waiting room things pop up on mine, on my side, on my screen. So what we are doing tonight is a behind the scenes look at how the Heritage Center came together in a way, and a look at some of these specific artifacts and how they were restored and the story of those. And I'm gonna just
got some. Thanks.
pause for 1 second. I'm gonna go ahead and mute all for now and let people unmute themselves when they have stuff, so that we cut down on any background noise. So you guys will be allowed to go ahead and unmute yourself if you have any questions, and I encourage you to do that. Go back to my screen. Okay, so we have been in this building now since 2001, and I'm definitely going to rely on Virginia and Kasey to share a lot about this, because that's before my time here. I came in 2006, so we'd been in the building for 5 years at that point. So there was a lot of work and a lot of years of research and working with the community and figuring out what stories we wanted to tell before we got into the Heritage Center. So this is just a little collage here of some of the artifacts and things we're going to be looking at today. This is being recorded, so if people will be able to look at this later. Like I said, you can unmute yourself if you have any questions. There we go. So here's our beautiful building. We are 130 years old this year. It originally opened in 1890 as the City Hall and Marketplace. And that's something we still get. And anyone that's on this call that's a volunteer and works at the front desk, they can attest to the fact that it still says City Hall and Marketplace carved onto our building can be confusing to people sometimes. We do get people that still come in and think that they're entering one or the other. And we can tell them, you know, the City Hall is now across the way since 1977. And we haven't been a marketplace since the late 90s, but that's part of our historic structure of the building. When we moved in, we're prepared to move here into here in the late 90s. There was some things that we had to do with the interior structure of the building to change that. So this is one of my favorite exterior sketches of the building, and this is one from the early years. We know that the clock tower officially became a working clock in around 1924. So when you see that it
I think we may have lost Natalie. I believe we have. I don't know if she's been knocked off completely.
Can you hear me if I talk into my phone?
We can hear you now.
Okay, I'm also logged in on my phone because I anticipated this might happen. Can you still see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not sure if it's going to advance the slide though when you do.
Okay. Can you? When did you lose me?
The first slide.
Mid sentence. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I'll stay logged in here then on my phone, if you can hear me. So just to back up, this is our one of my favorite views of our building, and we're going to talk a little bit about how we converted it from the City Hall and Marketplace into where it is now. You can't hear me?
Yeah, Natalie, I'm seeing. I don't see your screen anymore.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're not sharing anymore.
All right. Let me figure this out. It's connecting again. So.
Do you want me to go ahead and open it on my computer?
Yeah, I think you're going to need to do that.
All right.
Like I said, the internet is just protesting so many people trying to be connected right now. Looks like it's trying to connect on my end. Let me get out of the slideshow here. Bear with us, guys. Sorry about this.
No problem.
We wanted to do this tour now because we are closed to the public until the end of the month due to rising COVID cases, and we want to keep our visitors and staff and volunteers safe. So this was out of an abundance of caution. And I wanted to note that if you come to the Heritage Center for a normal tour, you'll have one of our wonderful docents, some of who are on this call right now, who would give you a different tour than what you're seeing tonight. Our regular tour tells a lot of the stories that are behind the artifacts and things that you see in the museum. And so we're sharing the behind the scenes of how those artifacts got where they are tonight. So that's not normally a story you get to hear unless you go through with Virginia and Kasey or I. So we wanted to give you a little taste of that, but we also could do a virtual virtual tour of the gallery, which is something we may do at another point. So. Kasey, are you having any luck on your end getting the?
Is everybody seeing the presentation again?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I've got the presentation open on my computer, so.
All right, well, I see it on my phone now. Okay. So I may just have to have you advance the slide. I swear we haven't had these issues before.
Now it's not letting me advance the slide.
Oh, there we go. All right.
Okay.
Can you guys hear me?
No.
Yep.
No, now we can. Yeah.
There we go. Okay. Sorry, I had to mute. I still have my phone on just in case. So I'm logged in twice. All right. So we'll try this again. And I don't know. Someone, if any of my family is still on there, immediately text me if you notice me drop off. So I'll know, because I think there's a lag. I didn't know that I had dropped until I'd been off for about a minute. So.
Well, generally one goes on talking, so it's.
So, okay, I wanted to start with a slide of the Heritage Center, some that shows some of the before when it was still a marketplace. These are some more recent photos from the, I think a lot of them from the mid 90s to late 90s, but you can see a few pieces of things that we have on display in the museum. We have an original market map from 1890 on this wall that we have here. So you can see this section here shows in our gateway gallery has a section of the original flooring that was restored. I love this part. And when we pulled up a lot of the flooring last year to replace it after the water disaster, there is still flooring that exists under parts of the building. But it takes a lot of work and restoration to get it looking as nice as it does in this section here. So we don't have all the sections restored and available. And it's also, there's a lot more wear and tear if you leave them open. But you can see here some pictures of some of the old stalls that were in there. We've got Marie's Candies. We've got a vendor map from 1987. So there was a kind of a rebirth of the market and a rebranding that happened in the late 80s. And we have Bill Schwartz managed the market at one point, and he ended up later working for us at the Heritage Center just a few years ago. So he was managing at that point. So we got some pictures out here showing the outside of the marketplace in that time period, and got some from the 1980s that show we had like a little food court area. So people have a lot of different memories from a long period of time of this building. And we're happy to still be here to preserve those memories and all the history and memories of our community. So I thought this was a good one to start with, to show what was here before. And in that room in the Gateway Gallery, we also have some of these pictures on display to show people what used to be there. This is some pictures that we have just prior to when renovations began. You can see the market stalls back here and that original floor that I talked about. This is in the second floor area, the council chambers that were part of the original City Hall. And then down here, you can see the Opera House balcony. So if anyone was on our behind the scenes tour that we did of the collections and archives, Kasey took us up in the balcony and looked down. So you can see the balcony here. And for reference, I wanted to show you that part of the Gateway Gallery where we have pieces from old buildings in town that were have been saved. We have that section of the balcony there so people can see that. So again, that's one of my favorite parts in the building. I love this balcony, and it was able to be saved. And you can see some other pieces, like this is the one of the doorways from the building in one of the marketplace stalls here. So we've got a lot of different pieces from a lot of buildings that aren't still around, but we're happy to preserve them that way. So I had said before that to get into this building, there was a lot of work, and this is where Virginia and Kasey are going to start to come in more. It was funded through a tax levy in the late 1990s initially, and there was a lot of discussions, focus groups, and people that helped bring ideas together and figure out what stories needed to be told and how to tell them. So I believe, Virginia, this is a picture of one of those focus groups.
This specifically is a group of teachers. We really wanted to find out from them what they would like to see in the Heritage Center that would help them teach their students. And that's where the idea for the timeline actually came from, is this gathering of teachers talking to us about what they would like to see as features in the Heritage Center.
I think we may have lost Natalie.
Oh, you lost me again. I can hear you guys
no,
when I
okay.
get lost. Okay.
Yeah, and in the background you see Dr. Kennison standing up and Floyd Barman as well. But
And
this
Virginia.
This is at the staging facility, which was on Thompson Avenue. We took everything that was scattered over 4 locations in the county and consolidated them into one building so we could look at all the artifacts and all the paper material, the archival material, to figure out what we really wanted to put in the new museum.
And and out of those talks came sketches and models that the public could go view. I know that there was a big, at the cusp, if I'm correct, a meeting where people could come look at the model of what the museum would look like. And I love them. I mean, because you look at the models and you're seeing what our museum looks like. So it's like a cute little miniature version.
Well, actually, the models were first previewed at a very exclusive meeting of the members and the board and the county commissioners. Anyone else who was involved in the project got to see these models first. And what was interesting is that a man had a camera on his shoulder, and he had a little tiny scope so that he could look like he was walking through the model to show people what it would look like from a walking standpoint. And people were just mesmerized that night. It was at the Coast Auditorium.
I think I've got another too.
When you think about, they do all that now with VR modeling. And back then they had a little guy on a stick with a periscope, a reverse periscope.
Pre high tech.
Right.
Yeah. Very inventive.
Mm-hmm. And we still have these. When we had our anniversary exhibit about 10 years ago, we had those models out on display so people could see those again. This is some pictures that we have of the prep before, and I'm not sure how the time frame of when this happened before we moved back into the building, or moved into the building in 2001, but this was the tops going back onto the towers. So people in town would have remembered for a long period of time that there were no tops on those towers. And we've done some, people had asked, you know, if we knew when those were removed, and I'd finally found an article that it was removed in August 1951 because of safety concerns. There was pieces of them that had been falling to the ground. So these are fiberglass?
Correct. Yeah.
Fiberglass.
These are fiberglass reproductions, and they were actually something we did as part of the promise with the money that we received, the tax money. We promised that we would restore these kind of pyramidal tops to the towers. And so watching them go into place was great fun. This would have been about 2000. It was before we opened in 2001.
Okay.
Well, I think we lost Natalie.
Yeah.
Are you there?
You
Okay.
lost me again on that end, I think.
Okay.
Unfortunately. If are you able to,
I think I can
screen
switch
share.
back and forth to mine.
it might just be safer if we switch to yours and we go to that slide.
Okay.
I think that my connection is just going to keep dropping up here. I'm not sure what's going on today.
Wait, I did that wrong.
But Virginia, do you know when those tops went back on? If it was much earlier in the process to before the interior stuff was happening?
That was going on while things were happening on the interior. So it was late 1999 or early 2000.
Yeah, because I have the next slide when Kasey gets to it is an exterior view of the work.
Where are we? There we are.
Outside the building. One more slide. Yeah, this is one of those exterior views that shows the south side of the building where we have our current main entrance. You can see that they're building up those big stone steps that we have outside. And the tops are already back on at that point. So this is.
And a lot of things were going on at the same time. We were working with conservators. We were working with the exhibit designers. We were working with architects. Things were happening on the inside of the building, the outside of the building, at Thompson Avenue. It was a multi-stage, complex endeavor to get us into the museum.
Kasey, if you want to go to the next slide, there's another one of the exterior of the building. This is one that it's a neat. It shows you a one of our then and now pictures showing that same side of the building from closer to 1900, and you can see it what it looks like now.
And of course, the reason the building is so narrow is that there were shops on both sides. He had Charles Krieger had to literally squeeze it in to the only available spot there was.
So we are a very long and skinny building, which it becomes very apparent when you have to do things on opposite ends of the building and run. We get a workout here for sure. If you want to go to the next one, Kasey, we've got some
Cool.
I've got a few slides coming up of just showing the museum galleries starting to come together before we get into some specific artifact ones.
I don't think we need to tell anyone. Well, certainly not where those two are.
Well, I say if you want to go
So
back,
this would be.
you can show go back one, show the timeline there that Virginia had mentioned. That's the in the one down on the floor before they had started putting it up. That's our timeline that lines up the current president along with what was going on nationally and locally in the county. So that's a good tool to help orient people.
Here you can see the panels that went up on that timeline above. If anyone, I realize there may be people who actually haven't been to the museum in the audience, but most of you will recognize these from the first floor gallery. So there they are before they were put up. And here, I think you can only identify by the elevator.
Yeah.
Oh,
Is that?
Yep. Yeah, this is the gallery on the second floor, and what
Yeah.
you're seeing at the end of the building is where the balcony was for the Opera House.
So we're looking west here.
Correct.
So this would be if you're orienting yourself to, we'll have more slides of the interior now, but the Westcott car is in front of the balcony further up. So that's where we have our military gallery underneath the balcony and our political exhibit.
The Westcott house would be right about here, or the
But you
Westcott
can-
car. Sorry.
Part of the biggest structural change to get into the building was the museum is black boxed in around, so the original walls and windows are beyond drywall panels and black walls, so that we were not touching the original structure of the building as we built up the museum inside.
It also helped us control the light, which is very hard on the artifacts. So the black boxes is what we call them, really helped both the building, the wall, the windows, those beautiful stained glass windows are still there behind the black boxed walls.
And it's also one of the mechanisms that helps us control try to control the temperature inside the building. It creates a nice buffer between 3 feet of air between us and the outside world. So
these next two pictures are some really neat ones of the second floor coming together. The upper one is before anything's in. You can see they're still building in all the structure, but you can see the stairway that we have that goes up to the second floor. And now we've got that windmill that stands in the middle of the stairwell. But it's neat to see without everything there. And then this next one is a little bit further along in the process. You can see they've brought our Driscoll carriage is up there ready to be placed, and a lot of the signs are hung. And then we get, this is the grand opening, correct?
Yes.
Yes. So the grand opening was March 31st, 2001.
Yeah, it was very, very cold.
So you can see the big tent outside for the festivities, and I don't know if I have pictures of the lines for people to get in, but we had. Well, you guys can talk more about that since you were here.
Yeah, we had lines, and of course we had timed tickets. It's a big building in one sense, but the galleries are a little smaller, so we had to make sure that there were people going through on a regular schedule so that we didn't get overcrowded, and the fire marshal wouldn't yell at us for having too many people in the building.
And it was still, I remember it being, I was standing duty in the galleries. I believe it was 2 days. It was a weekend, and I was spent, I think, most of both days in the galleries. I think I must have met everybody who built the IH Travelall.
Yeah.
It seemed like 24 people came by me and said, well, I must have put that piece on it.
Hey, Casey, just to interrupt you real quick, can you hit record on your end? Make sure it's going. I just realized it might have stopped recording when I got kicked off.
No, it's still recording.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Just want to make sure. Okay, if you want to go to the next slide, people can see our current map of layout of the museum. So right now we have this set up as a scannable map that you can.
One of the things you see on this map is the original building and then the Expo Hall, which was erected in 2003. One of the things that the Ohio Preservation Office insisted upon was that, yes, it was fine to do an addition, but it needed to look sympathetic to the original architecture.
So yeah, I mean, if anybody who's visited has, noticed, actually there are people that are surprised that the annex is newer. There are some people that assume that it's part of the original construction, which is interesting because that would be an interesting original floor plan, but
Yeah.
then the actual original floor plan of just this long 50-foot wide building is pretty unusual anyway. So.
All right, I dropped off for a second. I'm back if you can hear me.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so now we're going to start into some specific going through the galleries as kind of the flow through the galleries of telling some of the stories behind some of the artifacts and their restoration process.
This is my favorite story because I had an opportunity, my husband and I, Jay, had an opportunity to go to New Jersey and visit the conservation laboratory where the Conestoga wagon was being lovingly and very carefully restored and conserved. I knew right away that the original colors, that blue and red, were probably bicentennial and not the colors of the original Conestoga. So when we sent the Conestoga to the restorers, the first thing they did was take 15 itty bitty samples, 8 from the running gear and 7 from the bed, sent them to the Smithsonian Analytical Laboratory. There they underwent a any kind of testing, and found that underneath, yes indeed, there were the original colors and the original style of paint. It was a linseed oil paint, and the young men who did our conservation persuaded a defunct company to please do exact reproductions of the paint, so that the paint you see on the Conestoga now is indeed the original colors.
And the article that's on there, that the 107-year-old prairie schooner one, that was one that we found recently just going through the papers. In 1938, there was a Northwest Territory parade, and that wagon was in the parade. And this is an article from a couple years later when they were doing a story about it, and it made its way here to the museum.
Also, I must confess that this is probably the first time that Kasey got gray hair was because we had arranged for the wagon to be shipped by truck, and everything after much effort was arranged to have this go to New Jersey. It was in pieces, and we had done all the work to make sure it was going to be safely delivered. And I then said, Kasey, it's your responsibility. I'm going on vacation. I think it was either trauma or her very first gray hair.
I'm trying to think. I actually did. It's on the record. I had a few gray hairs before I started working for the Historical Society, so it's in my genes. It's not just this place. I'm trying to remember how far. For anybody who doesn't know, I started with the Historical Society as a student at Wittenberg. Just a work study student. I worked 10 to 12 hours a week during the school year. And it was in 1997, right at the start of, or close to the start of this process. So I'm not sure how, I'm trying to figure out how old I would have been when I was in charge of getting the wagon onto that truck.
You were a sophomore in college?
Sophomore? Okay. Yeah,
yeah,
it was exciting.
Yeah.
This next picture is some of the artifacts that you can see in the Gateway Gallery and our exhibit that showcases local inventions and patent models. So this is more of a picture of, I don't know if you guys so much have a story of, I don't know if there was a lot of restoration that went on with these, but this kind of shows the process of these pictures were laid out specifically for to be taken for the book that we put out to go with the exhibition catalog, some of them. So we've got pictures like this that have better close-ups of our artifacts and things like that. So Virginia, is there any particular restoration work that needed to go into any of these?
No, just some very gentle cleaning in-house.
And I said the majority of our stuff was in-house that for preparing the artifacts for display. Is that correct?
That is. One of the interesting parts of the whole process is all the different money that came together from the city, county, state and federal government was all what they called brick and mortar money, which meant it was money that was supposed to be used on the building itself. The Historical Society board and went back to the county and asked them if they would please allocate some money to the artifacts restoration. Otherwise, we would have a gorgeous building, but the artifacts wouldn't look so pretty and so nice. And so they allocated $350,000 to be used specifically for conservation of some of our most delicate objects, including the Conestoga wagon and the Civil War flags. So it as you said, a good 90% was done by staff and volunteers in-house, but the most delicate ones were sent off-site.
The next slide, Kasey, if you wanted, is an example of, I know ones that were definitely sent out. And I know recently, I just wanted to share this part. I've had people that they knew that we had these restored ones, and they were working on, someone wanted a recreated sign that matched a Thomas grain drill, which is what the back one is. We've got a Superior and a Thomas on display back in the expo hall. And they wanted pictures of ours so that they could try and match the paint scheme for this person that wanted a recreated historic sign. So we were able to send what we had, because I know that these were sent off. So Virginia.
Well, actually, the Superior was in-house, I believe, or at least partially in-house.
Well, the Superior, as I've always said when I'm doing tours, it's too pretty. It was never used in any kind of dirt. It was a showpiece, and the Superior Company made 3 of them. They kept one. The Historical Society received one, and one went to, of all places, the Shah of Iran. This particular grain drill actually went to the Ohio Pavilion of the Columbian Exposition in 1892-93.
But yeah, that was in-house work. A lot of it was Don Stiles, our very own Don Stiles. He did a tremendous amount of work on that. The milk wagon that you've seen or not the milk wagon, the moving wagon, the Rollins moving wagon, that some of you have probably seen in the annex, was largely Don Stiles and other volunteers. So a lot of people helped us with the conservation of these artifacts. So.
Yeah.
Yes, I could advance the slide.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I know that if you come to the museum and you see our Buffalo Springfield Road Roller on display, know that there is a lot of concrete underneath that, so that it doesn't fall through to the basement or fall through the ground there. So that part is shored up of the annex to accommodate the weight of that.
Yeah,
we've got a couple pictures here of it being moved in.
Yeah, there's an extra 12 inches of concrete underneath that particular footprint for the road roller, because you're right, we didn't want it to go shifting at all.
And this is another piece that we've been able to help others a lot with. There's people around the country that have road rollers like this that they're working on trying to restore themselves. So we get requests for pictures of ours that people want to see, how things are placed on it, and so that they can do that. And we do have one. We had another one in our collection that was restored by the Antique Steamrollers Association or something. I can't, Virginia, I'm not sure their exact name, but they had restored our other one, such so that it could be used when we redid our parking lot a couple of years ago.
Yeah,
it was able to. Miami Valley Steam Thrashers.
Miami
Edition.
Yes.
John Yowler.
And John Yowler. And John drove that steamroller alongside a modern steamroller when we rolled out our parking lot a couple of years ago. So it was neat to see it in action. And he's had it out. Ed, you helped get it out at the fairgrounds a couple of years ago too.
Yes, he's had it to several shows. It draws a lot of attention.
Yeah, yeah.
If you want to go to the next one here, this is part of my favorite area. I love the downtown models because it is not a memory that I have. It's well before my time. And it shows a Springfield that I only know from pictures, but this is another way that I can experience it. And I know that it's a good way for other people that don't know the area to try and orient themselves to what downtown Springfield used to be like. But I know that it's beloved by people that did know, those are their memories. I've got a picture here of my daughter about 5 or 6 years ago, because this is my favorite thing to do with kids when we go through the models, is to tell them to walk around the models and find me a building that they recognize that's still standing and to tell me about it. So this was, my daughter was really excited to find the Bushnell building because that's where she took her dance lessons. So that's a great way to help the kids connect with that history and, you know, make it their own and tell you their own memories. But these are a treasure that we have because of Bill Swanger, who, I don't know how many years it took him to create this, Virginia. Do you know how long he worked on these?
Yeah, he was beginning to work on them in 1990. He came to the Historical Society, which at that point was a little house across from Wittenberg's campus that had 2/3 of the archives and none of the artifacts. And he, for days, poured through photographs and city directories, trying to make sure that these models would be as exact as possible. And the first one we received was about 1992. So he's been working on these and the other models, including the Big Four Railroad depot that he worked on for years and just kept adding to and giving to the Historical Society. I've always enjoyed them.
Kasey, if you go to the next slide, I think we have a picture of him
Yep, there he is.
Together. So yeah, he also did the our building and the Pennsylvania house, which we have on display in the National Road Gallery. He did a fire department one that we don't have in the downtown models, but that's elsewhere. But we also have just in the last 5 years, before he passed away, he had donated the scrapbooks that he used that have all of his research from throughout the years. And a lot of it shows you the pictures that he used to help figure out how the models were supposed to look and how everything was supposed to fit together. So those are an amazing resource for researchers. And we've had those, we had volunteers up in the library and archives help index those scrapbooks so that those can be used for the future, because those are an amazing resource in themselves, along with the models themselves. So we're very, very grateful for Bill's many, many years of work and his labor of love to create this for people to see. And it's a lot of times when people ask us for pictures of buildings that exist in the downtown, I realize that the only place they exist is down in those models. So I'll run down to the models and find them and send them a picture of that, so he's documented some parts of history that we don't really have elsewhere. So it's a wonderful thing. Kasey, if you want to go to the next slide, we're still in the expo hall. Got some of the International Harvester trucks you can see over on the right when they were first getting moved in, but those have been moved a number of times since we got in. We've had last year we had one out at not last year, or in the past we've had them out at the fairgrounds.
Yep.
And we had one sent out in the last 10 years to get a truck bed put on it and restore that a little bit differently. So there's still been work that has happened on these since we first opened. And I can tell you, it is terrifying to sit in there and try and steer those things to get it out the door. I did it for about 5 seconds and said, nope, someone else is going to have to sit in here. This is too scary. And the next slide, you guys can tell the story of the fire truck, I think.
I think Kasey will fill you in, because I know this is her artifact. She loves this one.
Well, honestly, I would have to, I would have to go back and look up the exact dates. I want to say it was 1932. Oh, wait, it's in the article.
Well, no, I don't think we
No,
have
it's not. I believe it's a 1930s Aaron's Fox engine that was used here in Clark County, known as ballpoint for the sphere here on its end, which has something to do with balancing it so that the pistons that are pumping the water don't make the truck rock back and forth. That's all I know. I don't have any idea how that works or why it has to be a big silver ball, but it is an eye-catching piece, and I'm not sure when this repainting was done, but that was more recent as well, from the 1970s or 80s maybe.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's not in the paint surface is not in good shape now, but like I say, it's still pretty.
It's a great part of the museum to tell the story of early firefighting. And during the night at the museum, we've had vintage firefighters there to tell the story and everything. So it's a beautiful piece, and to tell the stories of the early fires at the East Street shops and Black's Opera House at the turn of the century. That's where we can tell those bits of the history. The next slide, I think, moves us up to the second floor. Mm-hmm. We've got our Driscoll carriage, and now we have a Driscoll sleigh that's down on the first floor in the expo hall. That's a much more recently restored piece that was given to the Heritage Center. And is on display down there. But this is showing it. Virginia, was this moving from Thompson?
No, actually, this was actually moving from Memorial Hall to Thompson Avenue. When I say we moved things from 4 locations, it took 25 moving vans plus many flatbeds to get everything into Thompson Avenue.
Did you guys do it all? Like try and do it all in like a weekend, or how? What was the time frame for that?
Actually, a weekend. Actually, a couple weeks. But we did have every box that was up in the archives was color coded. All the objects were color coded, so that when we got to Thompson Avenue, I could say to the movers, everything with a little green tag goes over here. Everything with a little brown tag goes over in this corner. Everything with orange tags go in this corner, so that moving in meant we didn't have to shuffle things around and could get on the ground running as quickly as possible to work on the exhibits.
In Virginia, this is where you say your thing about our t-shirt.
Yes, I want a t-shirt that says Clark County Historical Society, a moving experience.
Because that is a lot of what we do. Get stuff around. And history is old, heavy, and dirty. That's another
old,
thing.
Heavy, and dirty, yeah.
And we know that well.
Yes.
The next slide is a great example of a before and after that we did not do. The Van Pelts, Roseanne and Harry, they restored the Westcott motor car that we have up on the second floor. So you can see a great before picture of what it used to look like and see all of the work that went into restoring it to the beauty that it is now.
And actually, the picture you see is at its almost glory. The ones that I've seen show a pile of what looks like painfully nasty junk. So they really had a vision for what that car could look like.
Yeah, and they've been here before to stand by the car and talk to people about it too. So they still, it was a labor of love.
Well, and they lovingly come and clean it for us, which I appreciate so much.
The next one, you can see the flag as it was. I'm not sure the story. Well, I think this one may be. Well, this isn't this one's reversed. The picture from how it is up there. But this is our Civil War Sanitary Commission flag that was given to the women of Clark County for their work, and it's on display in our military gallery. In Virginia, I think there's 2 things in this picture. You can talk about the shadow box as well that's in there.
the restoration process for that?
During the construction of the museum and the exhibit construction, I had an opportunity to do something I had never done before, which was to work with conservators. I found out the conservators are great people. They are curatorial allies, and they get very excited, just like we do, looking at these special objects. One of the things you see on what to me is the left, is the shadow box, the little lady in the box in the corner. When we sent it to the conservator, she called back right away and said, "What history do you have?" And unfortunately, we have no history of the shadow box, but she was so excited because it was something she had never seen. It was so unique that she called all of her friends in the area to come and see it. It is a gorgeous piece, and her conservation lab worked diligently to conserve all the different types of material, including paint and gesso and hair and flag and sequins and jewels and everything that goes into this beautiful little Civil War shadow box. And it's very much a patriotic piece. It kind of evokes that sentiment of, we are doing this as soldiers for hearth and home.
That the next slide is another major Civil War artifact that we have that has been restored. Well, it's been restored a few times. A lot of people remember it sitting outside Memorial Hall. In Virginia, I think you mentioned before that it did go through a few carriages sitting out there.
Yeah, I think the one that's on now is about its fourth.
So the current restoration was funded by the Springfield High School class of 1943, and it's up on the second floor. And there was one day, it was really neat. There was some people that came in that they had found a cannonball, and they knew that we had a cannon, and they wanted to come stand by the cannon and hold their cannonball up so they could see where it would have gone. But this one was captured during the Battle of Lewisburg in 1862 by the 44th Ohio, which was mostly Springfield men, and it came back here, and it sat on the Soldiers Mound in Ferncliff for a time. I'm not sure when exactly that it came to the Historical Society to sit outside Memorial Hall.
I'm not sure either.
But we're happy to have it up in our military gallery. A beautiful piece. And I think, that's all we have for
That's the end of the slideshow.
as far as the slides go. There's lots more stories of behind the artifacts, but like I said, the docents that you would go through can tell you more specifics as to the story that we tell with those artifacts. And I know that they're wonderful because if you ask them any question, they will either answer it, or if they don't know it, they'll do more research to find the answer for you. So it's wonderful to go through with any of our docents. So does anyone have any questions?
Well, being the husband of the director of collections, I can say that this has taken a great deal of hours, an awful lot amount of work and effort to put this all together and get everything done. She has just labored over it, and would want to point out, I know some of you know, but I would want to point out that Virginia will be retiring. She's 70 years old now, and I'm much younger.
Yeah, right.
But,
3 months.
3 months. But she just had her 70th birthday, and she's going to retire at the end of December here. And then Kasey's going to be the person down there with all the answers.
and Virginia will be so very, very missed.
I'll be the one with the books that have the answers in them, but and Virginia will be coming back to. There's an exhibit that Virginia pitched a long time ago. I forget. Were you going to call it? No, it was a wedding exhibit. I think you had a title for it though. But we've been trying to get that exhibit on the schedule for years now. It was on this year's schedule and didn't happen. So that hopefully will be her encore performance at some point in the future, if she's willing to come back and tolerate us for a little while longer.
I'll be guest curator.
Let's say Virginia, you know, we're always looking for volunteers, so you're.
I think I'm well trained.
I'd like to tell you something from my childhood that I remember. We lived on the corner of Fulton Avenue and Nagley Street in the southeast end of town. And of course, Buffalo Springfield Company was down on Kenton Street. And when when I was probably 4 years old, at least I know, maybe before that, they used to always bring the road rollers up to test them on our street because Nagley Street had a real long slope down to Sunset Avenue. And they wanted to test the road rollers on Nagley Street. So whenever they came along, we all ran out to the yard to watch because they would bring the road roller down and they'd turn it around down at Sunset, and then they would go back up the road back to Kenton Street that way. But they always tested on Nagley Street there beside our house for years.
You know, we have problems with crows here, but that's a weird flocking phenomenon. Steamrollers outside your house.
Go ahead, Rich. Go ahead. It's on. It's on.
Virginia, I have a question.
Yes.
Regarding Bill Swanger's, we always talk about that's circa 1940. Would Bill have said there was a specific year when all of those lined up? Was it 1947 or 49? Or?
No, he really was trying to, according to him, he did it of what he remembered from the 40s. And that's why he spent a lot of time looking at photographs and looking at the city directories, especially. But I don't think he tried to make it specifically 1942 or 47. It's just what he remembered and what he wanted to present, because so much was gone. When he was researching, he found that 90% of the buildings that used to be in the core block area of downtown were gone. So he wanted to have some way of showing people what the downtown really looked like. And it was quite an effort on his part. It took him 10 years to do the original block. And then of course he kept adding other models to what he gave us, but it was a Herculean effort, because he kept, every once in a while, about every year or so, we would get another section till finally we had all 9 sections of the downtown of Springfield. It was very interesting.
I'd like to say also that he had a wonderful wife, Alice Swanger, who was right behind him all the way and helping him on a lot of the things he was doing. So she never gets credit. It always is Bill, but it's always a wife there too.
Yeah, she was lovely, and I enjoyed her so much.
Yeah.
Virginia,
yes.
I had a question about Channel 5 in Springfield. Do you know what happened to that?
No, I don't. I don't know whether they shut down, but you're right. The videos that I have done were put on that channel, but I don't know what happened to Channel 5.
No, it's been gone all summer. I don't know.
I do know that we have Angela who was there and did a lot of those videos. She's given us copies of all of them, and a lot of them are available on YouTube. Like especially the historic videos that we were a part of, you can find their channel. But yeah, I'm not sure either what's going on with them, but they're available for anyone that wants to see them. We've got copies here, but yeah, they are out there already loaded for the public.
I had a question, Natalie, about the cannon that was out of the Memorial Hall. There was another cannon on North Fountain Avenue. I built it in Norman Carey's house. Now, did that have any reference to the Heritage Center, or was that just a separate display?
That was theirs personally. The one we know the best, the one that is on exhibit in our facility, and we know where that one came from, and you know who over the years wanted to borrow it or borrow it and keep it. Lewisburg always said that they were going to borrow it and keep it, but the other ones for the Careys, that must have been their own personal cannon.
I do know for the Lewisburg cannon. Oh, is that Virginia Warren? Are you on this call still? Virginia had given us a picture that she had taken of the plaque that they have in Lewisburg that mentions that we have the cannon. And I think she was on the tour before, and they remembers on the tour them talking about, you know, that they wanted the cannon back. So we can't ever lend it because it won't come back. That's for sure.
I was there when that loan request came through. The answer was no.
That's why it's on the second floor, not outside.
Hard to sneak out a cannon, hopefully.
If I may, Virginia, I want to say something to you as one of the docents. It's been very fortunate to have you educate us so that we can portray the history of Springfield. Without your knowledge, without your help in the scripts and everything, it would have been a disaster, really. You furnished so much insight and made us very, very good docents, and I'm proud to have been part of the team.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, on your retirement, and I'm going to miss you like the devil.
Thank you, Pat, so much. How kind of you.
Well, you're a kind lady, and you've done so much for the history of Springfield, and I've been very happy to be a small part of it.
You are a terrific docent, and I'm so glad to know you and have known you.
Well, it started on Thompson Avenue when you showed me how to use my thumb to shine up brass, so it was an
When we say we did it in the house, we sure did.
We sure did. Good luck to you and Jay both, and I hope you have a wonderful retirement. Many, many years of joy.
Thank you so much.
You're here.
Thank you.
Yes.
Well,
thank you for having us.
Thank you, everyone.
It was a nice exhibit. Thank you.
Thank you. Enjoyed it.
Good job, guys.
Thanks for coming.
Good to see you all. I hope everybody stays healthy and happy and has a great Thanksgiving. And hopefully we'll see you back through our doors when we're back open.
When will that be?
We hope in December, but you know, we'll be keeping an eye on how things are going and we'll let people know. But our biggest thing is to keep people safe and everything. So we know that the history will always be here and will always be here. So even if we can't be open,
well, it's a thank you really to the whole staff of the museum. You guys have done a terrific job behind the scenes, in front of the scenes, and around the scenes, and through the scenes. You terrific job through all this. We thank you very much.
Thank you.
I have a question before you leave.
Yeah.
I've been cleaning out a lot of boxes of memories and things. And I have a lot of things that I think the Historical Society might be interested in, but should I just pack them up and just wait till you open again? And then I guess, Natalie, will you be the person taking Virginia's place on deciding who gets what you keep, you know?
It'll be Kasey as well, but I say if you want to get with us, if we can get in touch with you when
Email us. Yeah.
We can take donations on an appointment only basis. If you'd like to give me a call or email me, okay. I'll be in and out of the building for the next couple weeks, so we can set up a time.
Okay.
Well, thank you guys, and thank you to all the volunteers on this call for all of the work that you guys do, and thanks for everybody else for joining us. And know that, well, we always, right now we're not taking new volunteers, but if you ever want to join the fun, it's fun to be here. So, but we're happy to have you guys here with us today, and we thank you. And we'll be doing another program in December, and we'll let you guys know what that is. So you guys have a good rest of the month.
Well, thanks again. It was very nice.
Have a good night, everyone.
Good night.
Nice to see you all.